and welcome to the latest episode of Cinematary. We have just got back from Toronto, and this is our 2025 TIFF recap. And I'm here with
Andrew Swafford,
Grace Winburn,
Michael O'Malley.
I didn't even say my name. Everybody knows who I am.
Your reputation precedes.
the man with the movie podcast.
Man with a movie podcast. It was our it was our eighth year of Cinematary at TIFF. It was a really special TIFF year because it was the 50th anniversary of the festival. They were bringing out all the stops. I think it was a really good experience, but also was an extremely special.
Tifty, nifty, tifty.
Tifty, yeah.
Yeah, Grace invented that. I'm not gonna give it to the commercial. But it was also a special TIFF because all four of us were able to go for the first time.
Hey.
So to lead us off, Michael, how was your TIFF experience?
I had a lot of fun. I had never been there before, obviously, and I credit you guys that I didn't have a befuddling experience, but rather enjoyed myself and figured out what to do. Because I will say, I wasn't expecting the interface learning curve. Like I had to kind of figure out what a press and industry screening was versus a public versus, those sorts of things. I had to know the locations of the theaters, which is not actually that big of a deal, but is helpful to just be able to ask someone that question who's next to you rather than to have to figure it out by navigating websites and stuff. And so
it's a lot easier than it was when Andrew and I went for the first year, where they had theaters in different parts of Toronto. It was
they were really
yeah. That was really nice that it was just whatever those 9 blocks or whatever that was for the festival.
You also were navigating without a smartphone too.
Yeah, that is true. I did it with the help of my notebook, which I have right here. I printed out all my
very important
my schedules.
This man has the full schedule of everything TIFF is going.
Yeah,
it's true, because I did not know how often I would be with internet access. And so I printed it all out, and it did come in handy.
Got his MapQuest.
It was the equivalent of MapQuest directions. I will say I got back to the airport without any MapQuest directions. So
nice.
It's a win.
Amazing.
I'm trying to think. Well, the other thing we could talk about is that this year, for the first time, Criterion brought their mobile Criterion closet. If you're watching this on YouTube, you see Grace's hat. Michael joined us for part of our stay in the line, but
I held the line for a couple hours.
You held the line, but
we held it down.
What was it, Andrew? You started at 9:30 that morning.
9. We had to stand in line for approaching 8 hours.
Yeah,
oh
we started at 9 and we got into the closet at 5 o'clock.
Yeah, and
I've been making
a few of us were able to leave the line to go watch a Wavelengths avant-garde screening. That was a nice little break from the line experience. Doing that line did mean missing some movies, which the really sad one for me was missing the Park Chan-wook movie, which Michael, I
left the line to see that movie.
A cinema purist, he went to go experience the cinema.
It was my first year at TIFF.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, to me, it was the line was extremely long. At some point, you kind of get to a point in the line where you're just is this worth it anymore? We've been here for so long. But I have to commend the Criterion folks. They were they were bringing you snacks. They were playing games. They were very engaged.
Also very accurate about how long the line would take. They told us about 5 when it was 11:30, and they're like, you guys are probably not going to get in until 5.
We were like,
no way. There's no way. They've got it down to a science.
Yeah. But yeah, Grace, what was your experience like with the Criterion?
It was overwhelming. It did get to a point where I was like, I can't believe I'm still waiting this long. And like I was saying, I've been making people guess how long we wait in line because I can't say it. But if they guess and they get it right, then I'll tell them, hey, you nailed it. Because I guess there's part of me that's like, wow, I can't believe I waited that long. But then it's like, I also can't believe we waited that long. But it was a long run for a short slide. We only had 3 minutes in there. And the organization system of the closet is confounding. So
By
the way that they
fine
described it to us, there's no real actual organization system well, there is. I mean, it's institutional, but the way that they had organized the closet is that at whatever point, whatever film was put into the collection, that's its number. So, but there's no like, these are numbers, whatever through whatever. You just kind of have to know what your number is, and then they'll sort of direct you there. But
to their credit, they gave us a handout.
They gave us the handout, which is helpful. But it's like, okay, so Mildred Pierce was like 880 something, but I don't really know where that is in relation. You just kind of have to find like a guide number and go for it. But
and also you get in there, and I blacked out. Like I don't remember anything.
Took our breath away.
You check the little sheet and you're like, I'm ready. And then you get in there and you see just the breadth of all the movies in there. And you're just like, I'm overwhelmed. And so like if you watch the video, like we kind of get started and then it's just like, we like go into like movie mode of like finding stuff. Grace was the only one who had the like foresight to like go, we should probably talk. Like
we should talk because I thought about how like some of the all the other people they get a chance to talk during. They're like, oh, this one's great, while they're pulling, and just to sort of like mood music while you guys are finding yours, and that worked great because then it came time to you guys to discuss your picks, and it wasn't just total silence for a minute and a half while we like are scampering around trying to find stuff, but it was just overwhelming, and it absolutely like took my breath away, and it's one of those experiences that I certainly don't regret, and I don't think I ever will.
No.
Yeah, and then we got our Polaroid.
Grace, what were your 3 picks?
Oh, the red shoes. That was very essential. That has changed a lot for me. And then Mildred Pierce, because out of the series that we did that I put together for Betty Davis and Joan Crawford, that was my favorite out of all 4. I still think about it. I've checked it out from the library since, just for a rewatch. So it's really nice to own it now. And then I picked Female Trouble, which is actually a John Waters that I haven't seen. And so now I own it. But like the other John Waters that I've seen, I've also checked out from the library, and I'm content to leave those there and pick them up when I can. But it would be nice to own one. And I think that this should be the one.
Don't have to go to f.movies.com anymore.
No more F.up movies.
No more F.up movies. Yeah.
The 3 I picked were Cairo Station, which I watched for the first time a number of months ago and really enjoyed. It's this Egyptian thriller that like starts out as I talked about it on the podcast, but it starts out as like almost like an Egyptian new wave, like neo-realist movie, and then like shifts into this crazy thriller that I was not expecting. I got Portrait of a Lady on Fire, which I've watched since I got back. It was good to get that just because it was a movie that we saw at TIFF and had a really like memorable experience. I remember watching that for the first time. And then Night Moves, which I saw a couple months back with Gene Hackman, which has been one of my favorites that I've seen over the last year or so. But Andrew, what about you?
I decided to just get movies that we had seen premiere at TIFF because there have been several TIFF premieres that have made it into the Criterion Collection the last couple of years. My number one priority would have been Portrait of a Lady on Fire because I think that's maybe the best movie that we've seen at TIFF. But I already own that one, so I didn't get it. So I instead got Moon Age Daydream, the documentary about David Bowie, extremely psychedelic. I'm looking forward to rewatching that. I got No Bears by Jafar Panahi, which I think Zach and I saw the same day as Moon Age Daydream, if I'm remembering correctly.
What a day.
And we actually saw Jafar Panahi's newest movie. It was Just an Accident at the festival this year. Maybe we'll have time to talk about that later. And then I got Anora, which is probably my favorite Sean Baker movie. Very much enjoyed getting a chance to watch that at the festival last year, and was cool to see it so warmly received by the general public to the point where it like won Best Picture.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Did that win People's Choice? No, it was Life of Chuck.
Yeah. Life of Chuck.
It was Life of Chuck. People's Choice. What a dumb award.
People don't always make
Do we know who won this year?
We do. It was Hamnet. By Chloe Zhao.
Which you saw.
I did see it. Yeah.
Yeah. Curious to hear your thoughts.
Little tease for later. We'll talk about that one. Let's jump in the movies that we saw. We're gonna do three out of the four people have seen, or one that we all saw, and then two that 3 out of the 4 people have seen, and then we're gonna jump into each of us has picked out 3 movies that kind of highlight from the experience. But as always, we'll have a written component. It'll probably come out later this year that'll encompass all the movies that we saw during the festival. But let's kick it off with one that I feel like it's coming out honestly less than a month from now, and I think is good. I think we all agree is going to be a nice, like, crowd pleasing and a good movie that you can recommend to people, and that is Roofman, which comes from the director Derek Cianfrance, who made Place Beyond the Pines, Blue Valentine. It stars Channing Tatum. I know a lot about this movie because I wrote a bunch about it for the Charlotte Observer. It's a story that's based out of Charlotte, and they filmed the majority, or actually all of the movie there.
And you got to interview the director in the screenwriter.
We got to interview the director. Grace helped me and did a great job joining that whole. I think I forgot to send y'all the picture of me in the director's chair talking. That Grace.
So cool. Very official, professional. They had cameras and a lighting crew, and they're like, "Let's get playback." And they made Zach. What was it? They like.
Oh, I had to do like a scene set. I was like, Zach Dennis, Charlotte Observer.
Leonard Part 2.
That's what I was going for.
Yeah, obviously.
Roofman, though, it stars Channing Tatum and Kirsten Dunst. It's a true story. There was a guy who was arrested. He was robbing McDonald's and other fast food places by breaking in through the roof, and then robbing the fast food joint in the morning as the staff came in. But he was notoriously nice. Like, people didn't have any, they were never like threatened by him necessarily. They were always like, he was kind of a kind robber. But it catches up with him. He's arrested. He goes to jail. But then a few years after, he breaks out of jail and escapes to Charlotte, where he hides in a Toys R Us, because this takes place in 2005. And he hides in a Toys R Us and strikes up a relationship with a woman who works at the store and begins going to her church, and like creates this whole little life for himself before naturally things start kind of closing in on him. I really enjoyed it, outside of like having to watch this for work and talk about it in that capacity. I really think I thought it was a really enjoyable movie. His other movies are very like serious, dour, dramatic, like thrillers that like really don't have any like fun moments. And I was reading through the transcript of the interview we did. He talked a little bit about how like he wanted to find something that wasn't necessarily that. Like, he wanted to find something that was a little bit more lively and attached to the story. Honestly, I thought like Channing Tatum's really good in this movie. I think it's one of his better performances. Kirsten Dunst is great. I mean, she's just, I said it to y'all after the movie, like, she's just a movie star. She gives a great movie star performance. And is really stellar in this, but
not a showy performance at all.
Not a showy performance.
Really understated. Like, you really feel like Kirsten Dunst is just this middle-aged Southern lady, you know?
Yeah. And it's a movie that, even though you're like, but he's robbing people and holding people at gunpoint, it's very enjoyable. It's very funny. It's very light. I think you kind of get sucked into the story and this character. But yeah, I'll leave it up to somebody to speak up, but what did y'all think of Roofman?
I thought it was great. It's like almost a family film. I think that there's probably too much language and sexual content for it to actually be a family film, but that was kind of the tone that I felt like it struck.
Kind of.
But like you said, really, really crowd pleasing, very genuinely funny. Channing Tatum is able to bring his physicality to the screen in a way that he kind of always does, but here in a little bit more of a lighthearted way than we've seen him in the past. Like, I love all the scenes of him just like dancing around the Toys R Us after hours, like wearing inner tubes and shit like that.
Yeah.
And I think it's really interesting as like a mid 2000s period piece.
I wrote down all the period signifiers that I saw.
So I know
include
Toys R Us
Blockbuster Video
and Blockbuster. What else?
the
is in there?
second green M&M standee. Let's see. What are some other ones that I saw?
Windows XP is in there.
Yeah, Windows XP shows up. Some of the toys were throwbacks as well.
The phones.
The phones,
Definitely
like
cell phones.
Motorola Razors and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it
was
cool
like interesting to see
all that like artifacts coming back. And one thing that I did not think about until afterwards in reading Grace's review is that it's like a Southern story too.
Oh yeah.
And like I guess that just didn't register to me at all because this is just like this looks like a town that I've lived in. You know, it doesn't strike me as unusual at all. But I think that for some people, it will be like quote unquote local color, right?
It was like deeply Southern. Like there were aspects of it that I picked up on. Like, well, to me, I would say like for the Dillards, the like church as community and family. But also what is really striking is watching a poor, you know, lower income person selling their body to the military. So he has a past as, you know, being special forces, but he sold his body to the military to like get out of, you know, whatever sort of lower income situation he was in to still find himself in that. So I'm always sympathetic to see that because that is just what the reality is for a lot of people in the South. And so I'm so sympathetic to someone that has to resort to something like theft, like robbery, while still maintaining like he tries very hard to maintain like decency and you know, kindness because, you know, we're all just victims of this and this is the best that he thinks that he could do. So it all felt uniquely Southern, and the writer and the director in their conversation, in their interview with Zach, the writer, especially Kurt Gunn, he's a fellow Memphian actually, and I got to speak to him about that. But the kind things that he was saying about the South and about the people that make up the community in which Roofman takes place is deeply Southern, and he speaks on it and writes about it with such kindness that, you know, they're not the butt of the joke because they're from the South. You know, like they are, you know, kind, multifaceted people who are trying to make a life for themselves and for their families. And he affords them all the dignity that, you know, we do or we would experience in our own daily lives. And so that to me, you know, just added another layer onto this film of why I liked it so much, beyond it just being funny, well directed, well acted, and interesting, compelling. Like, Zach, when you're giving the description of the film, doesn't that sound ridiculous? He hides out, he makes a new little cell for himself inside the Toys R Us, and is like wearing kids' shoes and
living off peanut M&Ms.
Yeah, there is like an interesting reversal though, because then he sets up his own surveillance cameras and can kind of like surveil the Toys R Us, which is kind of a fun thing because he understands like Kirsten Dunst's character's like employment situation better than like she thinks he does, and so, you know, there's like that aspect.
Well, he's with the government.
Also, we should maybe briefly mention Peter Dinklage as the manager.
The terrible boss, the terrible Toys R Us manager.
What a guy.
Yeah, I think Kirsten Dunst's character is really interesting too, because at one point it's revealed that she has a master's degree, but she's like working at a Toys R Us, you know, has 2 kids. And I think that she has maybe taken maybe the opposite, not the opposite approach, but like a parallel approach to like Channing Tatum's character, who has done, you know, what are fairly radical things to make ends meet, whereas she seems to be extraordinarily cautious with like how she is trying to make ends meet. And has
realistic.
Yeah, realistic, like, for sure.
Get a shitty job and you just work that job that works with your hours.
Right. In fact, like as things like as the general public starts to like notice things are awry at this Toys R Us, she keeps coming into work despite like people telling her not to, because they're like, that Toys R Us probably isn't safe and whatever. And she keeps going because like, what is she going to do? I think the first scene we see of her in the movie is her arguing about her hours with Peter Dinklage because she needs time off because her custody situation has changed with her kids. And she needs certain days off that initially she hadn't said she needed off. And so just there is like that, to your point, Grace, like that very like grounded, what everyday people, just the kind of everyday like indignities and everyday struggles and strengths that people have to have, I think are pretty well represented in this movie.
And it's not a movie that really announces itself as being like about capitalism, but I think you can read it that way. I mean, and this is also partially just kind of an accident of the true story that he spends all this time in a Toys R Us, an institution that has not survived the current era of capitalism.
They also go to Red Lobster, which isn't Red Lobster dead as well?
No, they're under new management.
They're under management.
Yeah.
I thought they died.
Under management.
They don't show it in the movie, but he moved from Toys R Us and moved into an abandoned Circuit City. So like there's another.
Oh, man, that would be even better.
That would have been, especially with the surveillance tapes.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Well, Roofman, it's coming out on October 10th. Like I said, I really recommend catching this when it's in theaters. I hope it does pretty well. It deserves it.
I think it'll trick people by title. They hear Roofman and they're like, "Oh, superhero! I should go." And then
they play around with that a little bit.
They do, yeah.
Yeah.
He has the power of 10 roofs.
He jumps at roofs in a single bound. All right, the next movie I wanted to talk about. I know Andrew, Michael, and I saw it, and that is the latest movie from a director we're fond of, Sophie Ramvari. Andrew, do you want to take a stab at kind of introducing Blue Heron?
Ooh, I'll do my best. I'll preface this by saying that this was my favorite movie of the festival.
Same.
I think that is true about Zach and Michael as well. And it's a very emotionally charged movie, so difficult to talk about. But
I will say real quickly that Grace, I wish you were able to see this. I'm curious to hear your reaction to this. I think you would really like it.
Yeah, you would.
Well, I'll listen and I'll give feelings, but
yeah,
I'm really excited that you guys saw it.
Well, this is a very autobiographical story. It is about Sophie Ramvari's childhood, but she's not really the main character. It's kind of an ensemble piece focusing on her entire family, which is her mother and her stepfather. And she has 2 younger siblings, I believe, and then one significantly older brother who is the main focal point of the movie.
He's like 16, 15, 16.
15,
Can I ask
16.
a clarifying question, though?
Yeah.
I thought the parents were the biological parents of the younger children, and the brother was the only one for whom it was the father. Was
I think you're right about that, actually.
Correct.
I think that, the dad she's living with is her dad, but her older brother...
It's a different dad.
Another dad. Yeah. And her older brother... at one point is discussed as potentially having like oppositional defiant syndrome, or oppositional defiant disorder is the term. And there are scenes that are just like you watching him silently disobey orders, like continually like throwing a basketball against the side of a house where his stepdad is on the other side of the wall trying to work and things like that. And so it's a movie about this very tense and fraught domestic situation where everyone is aware that something is wrong in the house and is getting subtly worse, and nobody really knows what to do about it. And I feel like that description of the plot of the movie really fails to capture what is beautiful about this movie, which is like almost exclusively the craft of the thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like And I don't even know if I have words for that either. It's just like, it feels like everything is captured at such an interesting and unexpected angle. The way that the movie is edited together is really unconventional, and by the end kind of like breaks the reality that you feel as though you've been living in the movie. She has like a really broad range of cinematic influences she's pulling from here. She did a little Q&A with Letterboxd where she listed out some of her influences, and they include things
amazing
like
influences,
the Tree of Life and AI, and Celine and Julie go boating and stuff like that.
They all kind of make sense by the end of the movie, because you showed me that list. I was like, what kind of movie am I in for? And then
right,
but
like, it is just kind of a domestic drama, but there's a lot of other stuff going on in it too.
Well, and the pieces she draws from those movies of influence are maybe not the pieces you would think. So like when I see Tree of Life, I'm like, oh shit, this is going to be like some cosmic whatever. No. But what she's pulling from are the scenes with Brad Pitt and the children in Tree of Life. Like it seems to be like the big touchstone. And that, like that movie, has this like, by framing these scenes through the perspective of a young child, like kind of finds something very beautiful and unusual about things that otherwise might be, kind of fall into maybe cliche or archetype in another movie.
And it's kind of a movie about filmmaking or like capturing your own life in art. Her father is, I'm not really sure what her father does occupation wise, but like you see him kind of playing around with a home movie camera and taking photographs on a big DSLR and like showing his kids how to develop them in a dark room. And you get the sense that this is kind of a love letter to like Sophia Romvari discovering how to document her own life on film, which her own personal life has been the subject of all of the short form work that she's done, or most of the short form work she's done up to this point. I love her movie Still Processing, which is in many ways related to this movie. And I don't want to say too much about it without giving away kind of a twist here, but it is about her kind of like going through old photographs and video from her childhood and like speaking on it in the moment. She also has a great short called Pumpkin Movie, which is set during Halloween, and it's about her like carving a pumpkin while she's on the phone with a friend of hers, and they both kind of end up talking about their experiences with like sexual harassment and sexual assault, and so it's like kind of about horror, but in a way that's like put in the context of like a very loving conversation between friends. Like she always finds ways to explore heavy emotional topics in kind of a unique cinematic format.
I think that's a good like touchstone for people as we're describing this movie. Like that kind of sensation is like what Blue Heron is like. It's talking about a lot of like really difficult. There's a lot of scenes that are just really hard to watch and uncomfortable, but like you never feel like she's just kind of leaving you in this really hurtful space. Like she always is able to kind of like, you feel like guided through, like she's able to couch it in a way that like you're still finding these like really beautiful fragments among these really hard memories. And I think by the end of it, you just kind of emotionally swell over because it doesn't feel like, it's not something where you just exhale and you're like, man, I like survived this thing. It's very much like you feel like you went on a journey and like took something from this in a really powerful way that really moves you by the end.
Yeah, you feel like you're in very good hands, like from the filmmaker, like you can trust that she will kind of, like you said, guide you through the experience. And yeah, it's really, really beautiful. And like the way that she uses music too is like so like emotionally evocative. Like we were talking walking out of the theater, me and Michael, about she uses this Brian Eno piece from the
For All
Apollo,
Mankind movie.
For All Mankind, which has like been used in untold numbers of movies.
It was in 28 Days Later.
But like it just works so well the way that she uses it here.
Also, a lot of the music is diegetic as well.
Yes.
Because the father will play music from his computer. And it's all just like random stuff. Like at one point he plays a King Crimson track. Other times it's just like instrumental pieces. I don't know what they are, but like
there's an instrumental cover of Kraftwerk's The Model.
Oh, right. Good. Yeah, that was good. But yeah, like impeccable taste from the dad that like, so it's like another one of these elements of the movie that is almost like memories bleeding over into the film craft itself, which just, I don't know, as emotionally difficult as this movie can be, like it doesn't feel like a gauntlet. It feels very, it just feels like very genuine and wrestling with stuff in a way that's not, I don't know, like this is not a movie I dislike, but if you think about like the Roofman directors like Blue Valentine, like that is a movie that sits you down and is like, we're going to watch this relationship disintegrate and you're going to have to sit in it.
Yeah.
Right. And this movie doesn't feel like a challenge like that. Like it feels just like a genuine like engagement with like what like this director's life was like, which I didn't know anything about this director before I watched the movie. So like credit to you guys for putting it on my radar.
A lot of her short films are on Criterion Channel.
Yeah, I would like to watch the rest of them because this was my favorite of the festival for sure, and I found it very moving. She and I share some kind of biographical details. I had a brother who had similar behaviors, not as extreme as like what ends up being in this movie, but like some of the stuff was like very recognizable. Like there's a scene where they're like playing on a beach, and they are like one of the kids builds a castle. And the brother comes up and I'm like, he's going to step on this castle just because. And like, he like pretends like he's going to just get a rise out of the kids and then stops. And like, that is like very familiar to like what I remember like growing up with my brother. There's the other part where they're in the dark room and he just flips on the light just because like, he knows he's not supposed to flip on the light, but like, why not?
Yeah.
And so like, there was that element of the movie as well, where I felt like these were experiences that I somewhat shared, which given like the way that the movie goes later on, where, you have like what we alluded to earlier, like there's a kind of collapse in the reality of the movie. Like it had an extra layer for me because it felt like there were elements of myself in the movie. So there was like not just a collapse among the time and characters in the movie, but like a collapse between like whatever distance you have as a viewer and the screen. So I loved it. It was very good.
Yeah.
Feel free to fact check me, but I don't think this has a distributor yet.
Man, it better.
It really needs one.
Yeah.
Even if it's just a movie or Criterion or something to get on this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I really hope that somebody picks this up because it's a really beautiful film. I voted for this for the People's Choice Award, but the people didn't listen.
I didn't vote.
I didn't know how to vote. I don't know. This is my first TIFF.
Come on, y'all.
Throw away your votes. I also didn't vote.
Michael, I'm going to leave you with, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but I'm leaving you with the challenge of introducing Surratt.
Oh, God. Okay, so this is another movie that Zach, Andrew, and I saw. This was my first movie I saw at the festival. It is
hell of a wake up.
Hell of a wake up. So Andrew has seen other movies by this director before, and I got to look up the director's name. I'm sorry. But while I'm looking
Oliver Laxe, I don't know how to say his name, but Laxe is the last name.
Yeah. So anyway, the way that Andrew had described this director's other films was that this is like slow cinema, very kind of meditative and like patient filmmaking. And so I went into it thinking this is going to be a rewarding film that I have to just be patient with. And there is an extent to which that is true. The opening maybe 20 to 30 minutes are you're in the desert. at an unspecified time and maybe the future in which there's World War III brewing, but you barely get any details about that. It's just you're in the Moroccan desert, and there's this group of people who just throw raves. People come out to the desert to be part of these raves, and so a father comes to these raves saying he's lost his daughter. His daughter's run away. Do you guys know if she came here? Because it seems like she might have. And that kind of kicks off the plot. But for a long chunk of the beginning of the movie, you were just kind of inhabiting the world of these little pop-up raves. And so you have this almost like nomadic, kind of anarchist, like commune sort of situation where like people are sharing everything. It's very disorganized, but also kind of liberatory, and occasionally like law enforcement comes and like breaks it up or whatever. And you're just kind of patiently sitting with like, we're just, a fly on the wall of this very interesting setting. And I was thinking, yeah, this seems like what Andrew was saying. This guy's movies are like, and then this movie takes a striking turn in a direction that I did not see coming. And I will not spoil, because I do think that the surprise is like part of like what makes this movie special. But suffice to say, it is not meditative and slow and patient the rest of the movie. It becomes gripping the seat to like hold the rest of the movie because of the danger and the shock of things that are happening. Movies that I will throw out without context, but that seem to definitely be invoked in this in a variety of ways, but maybe not the ways you would think. Like the Wages of Fear or Sorcerer, like definitely get involved, and maybe even Mad Max, like some of the Mad Max movies. Yeah. But still in a way that doesn't feel like, as much as I've said, it's like, wow, this movie has swerved. It doesn't feel like we're suddenly jumped into a George Miller movie. It does still feel like the same sort of approach to the movie. It's just that it is now an approach that is witnessing events that are of such a like horrific and upsetting scale that like the approach, it kind of transforms, despite the filmmaking maybe not like being, actually radically different. I don't know. This was very good, and not at all what I expected it to be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's honestly, it's a really tough movie to like have an extensive conversation about without like being like, hey, we got to just break the spoiler warning here. But it's one that it's definitely an experience. When I saw it at a public screening. I got to say, the director looked like he would fit immediately in with the nomadic EDM rave people. Yeah. And I was like 2 rows from the front. And if you've experienced this movie, that was a hell of a place to be, because I was just like, it was like a fever dream, like trying to like read the captions and like see what was going on. Stuff happens.
There are also some very startling noises.
There are startling noises that really got me because I was very close to the screen. Yeah. This is definitely the one that I think this year, when it comes out, it'll be like, have you seen Surat? And we'll have a bit of like a cult following to it just based on that.
And isn't it being distributed by Neon?
It's distributed by Neon, so it'll come out for sure. And I think we'll get a relatively wide release.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't have too much to add beyond what you guys have already said about it. But to give a little bit more context on the director, I've seen 2 of his films. I watched them kind of as homework in the lead up to the festival. Mimosas and Fire Will Come. And both of those movies are, like Michael said, like very meditative, very slow. They're about people either like wandering for extended periods of time or just kind of waiting and not having a lot going on in their lives. Mimosas is about like this kind of caravan of Sherpas that are making their way through this like very treacherous mountain pass. And trying to carry a body that has that dies very shortly into the journey, and there's not a lot of plot. in that. It is just like one like gorgeous / incredibly dangerous landscape after another. But it ends up in a place that is that, you know, a classic Paul Schrader, like transcendental style. It feels like there's like a religious element to the movie. And then Fire Will Come is about a guy who just got out of prison for arson. He like burned down a forest, and the whole movie you're waiting like, is he going to burn down another forest? And I guess this is maybe somewhat of a spoiler. The title is Fire Will Come. There is another fire, but it is kind of left ambiguous as to whether or not that guy did it. And like, there's just not a lot going on in the movie between those two things. So when Surratt does kind of like kick into high gear and become like a very thrilling experience, that was, you know, just as surprising to me as it was to you guys. I also say that movie's pretty thematically interesting, I think, in the way that it deals with the concept of found family, because the dad is searching for a daughter who, like, you get the sense that maybe he has lost her emotionally, you know?
Yeah, it talks about later on that she's like an adult daughter. So it's not like, you know, he had like a 12-year-old who ran away or something.
Right. It seems like this is a daughter who, for one reason or another, doesn't want her father in her life anymore. Right. And we also see some pictures of the daughter. It seems like she's like somewhat like gender non-conforming. Maybe there's an element of that in the relationship that kind of goes unspoken. But he's like kind of insisting to the point of like putting his own life on the line to like, no, I'm going to find my daughter. I'm going to like strong arm her into having a relationship with me again. And in doing so, he kind of finds a little bit of found family in these ravers that he's kind of making his way through the desert with. And you can kind of see his son start to take a liking to them before he's really ready to. And you kind of see this hint that maybe he's, you know, if the story were to go differently in the way that it goes, he might end up losing his son too, because he's so insistent upon, this is what a child of mine is going to behave like. And so it's just kind of an interesting, like, there's a sort of a thematic tension in the movie about like whether or not the dad is going to like just be a little bit more open-minded about I don't know, alternative lifestyles and reasons why people might seek out a non-biological family. Everybody in this little rave caravan is like in some way kind of out of the social norm. Like there are folks who have like lost legs. There are folks who kind of like dress in ways that are not in accordance with their gender. And they're all just kind of like general like punk alt aesthetic folks, right? So I don't know. I thought it was interesting, and it's certainly like cinematically riveting movie. It's
also funny.
Very funny. Yeah.
Very funny.
In addition to being the other things we mentioned.
Mm-hmm. It's a movie you're going to want to go see with people and talk about it afterwards, because there's so much that we can't get into in this conversation.
Yeah, this is not a movie that you're going to want to, I'll wait and like rent it on Apple or something. Like, screw that. Like, you need to go to a theater and have like a full house. Like, it'll be a great experience.
The very first scene in this movie is just people silently plugging in speakers to do this first big rave. And there's like such a slow build up to like all the chunk and thunking of like cables going into outlets and stuff. And then when the music starts, like, it's loud, it's big. You're going to want to see it in a theater.
Yeah. Incredible music in this movie too, by the way.
All by one musician, I believe. And it's definitely a little bit more atmospheric and like haunting sounding than I feel like I would expect at a general EDM rave.
I don't know. Have you been to a rave during World War III in the Moroccan desert?
That's true. Maybe that's what people are wanting in that situation.
Well, yeah, I'll be excited for people to see this when it comes out, probably later this year, early next. Well, let's kick off. Everybody's going to do a rapid fire of 2 or 3 movies that they enjoyed that maybe they saw solo. And Grace, I'm going to kick it off with you.
Absolutely. First, I really want to start with my best of the fest, which was The Mysterious Gaze of the Flamingo. This was a directorial debut by Diego Cespedes. I don't believe that I'm pronouncing that correctly, but that is my best. For a directorial debut to have such a unique vision behind the camera is inspiring. This is described to me as a absurdist, surrealist, modern Western, and check every single one of those boxes. It is all of that and then some. This takes place in 1982 in a small, rural, isolated Chilean mining town where there is a mysterious plague that is afflicting the men in this village. The village is populated solely by men that work in the mines, and then there is a small cantina bar cabaret that is run by, and again, this is 1982, transvestite women. These women are performers and they are muses. And they are very interesting and exciting figures during the day, although the men all decide not to look at them during the day because they believe this plague is communicated by sight. And then they are a secret that the men all experience at night. This is told from the perspective of Lydia, this small little girl, who is also the only biological female in the town. She is being raised by this group, this found family. Andrew, you mentioned this beautiful found family of transvestite women who come together to protect themselves and make their own lives, existing in this world that only gives them love in the form of violence and thinly veiled hatred. But as the film goes on, Lydia is trying to uncover the origins of this plague. Her mother is Flamingo. All of the women are named after animals, so they take on these beautiful qualities of the animals that they're named after or for. There becomes something mystical and mythic about this whole legend. As Lydia tries to uncover the secrets of it, she starts to be confronted with the wider world beyond this desert community, this like small oasis that they live in. I bawled my eyes out. Deeply, deeply affecting. I cried my little eyes out at multiple points throughout the film because there's transgender joy, there's transgender love, there is violence, there's a gorgeous wedding. There is moments of being that are so touching and so beautiful throughout that it is so hard to not let this story into your heart. It ends on such a note that is sort of the end of life as we have witnessed it. But again, it's so hard. I don't want to get like swept up in revealing it all, but it was beautiful. That was absolutely the best of the festival for me. I had never seen anything like it. And it's so touching to watch these stories and to see them acted with like such care and real substance and flair, and it was absolutely wonderful. I wish you guys had been able to see it with me, but I'm very glad that I got to see it myself and experience it solo because it was one that was so affecting. I had 2 other very expecting, film going experiences. This was such a deeply moving TIFF for me. The other film that I saw was If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You. That's with Rose Byrne. Conan O'Brien, Ivy Walk, and ASAP Rocky, like kind of all over the place. ASAP Rocky is phenomenal. He has acting chops. Not only is he just a beautiful face, of course, something to look at, but he is really likable in such an easygoing way and is extremely funny with a real sense of comedic timing. Rose Byrne is acting her ass off in this. She is a mother who is taking care of her daughter. She is married, but it seems as though her husband travels a lot for work. What it is he does is a little unclear until the end. But she is raising her daughter, who has seemingly gone through some sort of traumatic medical event, and there is a lot of burden of care placed on the mother. I don't know what her name is. I don't even think that she has a name throughout, which is another layer of discomfort and also a point of, a question of her identity. Like, who is she? She's mom, she's mother, she's honey. She's a caregiver that is lacking in every sense of the word. Dealing with this guilt of this feeling of responsibility. Like, it's my fault that my child is sick. I am her mother. I am supposed to know what's going on, and I am supposed to have all of the answers for caring for my child. So it starts to whip up in this frenzy, and things become so overwhelming. Her house is literally, her home is collapsing in on itself. Her body is starting to fail her. She's starting to become stressed and overworked and alone. And you get the sense that she just wants to let go of her responsibilities. She smokes marijuana and she drinks copious amounts as sort of her release or a coping mechanism from having to care for this small child and feeling like, is this what my life will be like until? And watching it, I kind of got this feeling. I was like, if this is what it's like to be a mother, I never want to have kids. It made me want to DIE. It was so affecting and so funny in the most bizarre ways. Conan O'Brien is not funny in this. He almost gets on there and dares you not to laugh at him because of how against himself he plays, and he plays so well. He's a funny man, but he plays this very serious, almost sort of a desirable figure for the mother, for Rose Byrne, in a way.
I love that for him.
Love it for him, but it's in a way that he's present and he's there in her life, not for any other reason. That he is experiencing these aches and pains that she's going through, and he sees it in her. And that is desirable to her. Someone that is sharing in this hellscape that is my life with me, but won't offer me help in the way that I need. But this is one that has been kind of floating around for a while, and I don't know when it'll get a release date.
I was going to say A24 picked it up. It says October 10th. So
fabulous. Okay, because I know it went out around Sundance, and I heard something about, or maybe I made a joke about it being a good Mother's Day film, but that probably wouldn't work. And then the last one, I had a really special experience with. This one was the directorial debut for John Early, Maddie's Secret. I got to do the press line for this, which I believe was at Cinematary's first press line at TIFF. Yeah. So major milestone for us. We made it to the press line. We made it to the big leagues. We got to interview directors and actors. And I have all of the recordings for that. I can hand that over to Zach and maybe we can do something with it, but I'd love to write about it. This follows Maddie, a young girl who is a burgeoning food content creator for the Gourmaybe Content Kitchen that is operated and directed by, the kitchen is directed by Connor O'Malley's character. So shout out Connor O'Malley, shout out John Early, shout out
our personal friend Connor O'Malley.
Shout out to
she made Connor O'Malley laugh for Cinematary.
I did on
Probably the
Cemetery's
best
behalf.
interaction Cemetery is going to have.
I got to meet all of the actors and John, and I got to share wonderful, insightful conversation with John, the actors and executive producers of the film. So Maddie is a burgeoning food content creator who is thrust into the spotlight and is there to share her love and passion for food. But as things start to ramp up for her and her career starts to take off, a difficult trauma response from her past starts to come forward. Maddie has suffered with an eating disorder. So now there's this tension within her of succumbing to the disorder while trying to navigate a more positive relationship with food given her career. It's an extremely triggering experience for Maddie as she tries to find her way to wellness while hiding this secret within her. And from what I have gathered and from what I spoke to John about, is that he was deeply inspired by food content creators on Instagram, on TikTok, the sort of sexuality and sensuality of food. It's a very sensuous experience eating and preparing food as well. But he's also deeply inspired by John Waters' after school specials, educational television, because the film certainly has a message and it does not skimp or skip out on addressing the topic head on. She suffers from binge eating. And that is all explored with a real and with a genuine medical lens. And this is a comedy where no one is the butt of the joke. Things are just naturally funny. You have Connor O'Malley, you have Kate Berlant, you have Vanessa Bayer, you have Eric Rothhill, you have these incredible and interesting and unique comedic voices, queer comedic voices as well. This is also a very deeply queer film. And John plays Maddie as a woman, and it's not drag. It's not a joke. And it is the least exciting or controversial aspect of the film. He plays Maddie with the utmost respect and takes it all so seriously and is so believable and likable as Maddie that the rest of the film just sort of unfolds for you, and you're able to access, an aspect of this film that if you're stuck saying well, why is he playing a girl? You're never going to get it. That is so beyond the point. He approaches it with the same sort of dignity that any other actress would approach the role with. But he is Maddie and Maddie is he. And I was so inspired by everybody's overwhelming response of, I did this because I did it for John. They all just trusted in his vision and in his ability in such a way that they were all so singularly dedicated to his vision, and they deliver something so special. I think that this is also going to be elevated to Drop Dead Gorgeous, Party Girl, to that sort of cult sort of status. This is going to be at sleepovers. This is going to be at house parties. This is queer cinema that is where is it in mainstream? So wonderful. When this comes out, go see it and see it again and again and again. See it with your friends. It is endlessly quotable. It is hysterical with vivid colors and gorgeous, gorgeous lighting. Everyone top to bottom. This was phenomenal.
Yeah, I was just looking. This is another one I don't think has caught on for distribution yet.
It will, if I have anything to say about it.
Yeah, hopefully it does. I mean, you've got a cast with names that, John Early's people know who John Early is. I think this would be something that maybe pops up somewhere for sure. Andrew, did you want to go talk about yours?
Sure, yeah. I'm going to talk about two that I saw on my own, both of which I was feeling kind of negative about walking out of the theater. And I'm less negative on them now. I think that part of the film or the festival going experience involves like having your endurance and stamina tested a little bit. And if you're seeing 3-4 movies a day, if you're like just not super into one of them, I think that you can just feel really irritated by it in a way that maybe the movie doesn't deserve. But the first one I want to talk about is called Sacrifice. This is by Romain Gavras. I've not seen anything else by him, but he is a French director. He directed the Justice concert film Across the Universe, which I've yet to see, but I love Justice, so I need to watch that at some point. But this movie has quite a cast. It stars Chris Evans and Anya Taylor-Joy. It also has roles from Vincent Cassel, John Malkovich, Selma Hayek. Young Lean is in this movie, and Charlie XCX is in this movie for one scene. And that was my main reason going to see it. Charlie XCX had like at least 3 movies playing at the festival, and we were not able to see the one that she starred in, but she has a small role here. She does do a song. She's also playing a pop star, performing a song at like a Hollywood gala event. But the basic premise here is Chris Evans is this celebrity who is kind of in hot water with the public at the moment. He has had some sort of big, like, public meltdown that was captured on camera and circulated on social media. And you get the sense that this is a guy who has, like, really serious manic, depressive episodes. And he is stepping back into the spotlight for the first time since the incident. And he's going to this, I don't even know what the term for it would be, but it's like an environmental activist event that he's going to. Vincent Cassel plays this big corporate business tech mogul guy who is attempting to like solve the energy crisis with this new energy source that he's found like deep in the bottom of the sea. And so he thinks that we should be like mining the ocean for this ore, whatever it is. It doesn't really get fully explained. But they're going to this like fundraiser gala event. But it's just like, you know, all like the most uber wealthy people you could imagine. Chris Evans makes a bit of a fool of himself, but right before a larger event happens, which involves Anya Taylor-Joy, she is what's the term for what she is? I think that the public would call her a terrorist. And they do call her a terrorist. She is part of like this climate extremist group who believe that they are being spoken to by a volcano. And they believe that in order to... They believe that the apocalypse is coming, the volcano is going to erupt, and it's going to cause like widespread extinction, unless they throw a sacrifice or a couple of sacrifices into the volcano. So we have a classic, we gotta throw some human sacrifices into a volcano.
Is this like a Stealth Joe versus the Volcano remake?
It is not. It is not a Stealth Joe versus the Volcano remake. It is kind of one of these, you know, high profile eat the rich movies that we've seen from the past couple of years, right? Like there was Glass Onion, there was The Menu, also starring Anya Taylor-Joy. There was Triangle of Sadness. And this trend was maybe kicked off by Parasite winning Best Picture in 2020. And so I think that it's easy to be kind of cynical about this movie, and I am still to some extent feeling cynical about it because like the central metaphor of the movie is not really even a metaphor. It's just like, fighting climate change is going to take real, tangible sacrifice on the part of the uber wealthy, right? Like those are the people who are profiting off of the continued destruction of the environment, right? So like those are the people who are eventually going to, or at least like theoretically going to have to pay in order for us to avert, the ongoing climate apocalypse. So there's like not a ton going on in the movie thematically up to a certain point, but once you get into the third act of this movie and you meet John Malkovich's character, who is like Anya Taylor-Joy's father, it kind of reveals more layers to what's going on. And I don't want to fully get into those because people have not seen this movie yet, and I don't want to spoil it for them. But I do think that it is a little bit more interesting than just, very, very obvious allegory about the political moment of our times. I will also say that this movie has an excellent credits needle drop. They use the song "This Is How We Walk on the Moon" by Arthur Russell, the experimental cello player. And that song has actually reframed how I've thought about the whole movie, as I've just been listening to it over and over since the festival, and thinking about the moment where it gets played. And there's a particular character that you see dancing briefly while the song is playing, and I think that there's another layer of the movie going on with that character that is never foregrounded, but is like maybe another like game behind the game being played here. So maybe a little bit more complex than I initially gave it credit for, but maybe I'm also reading too much into it. I don't know. Chris Evans does give a pretty delightful goofball performance. Enjoyed watching him do his thing. And Anya Taylor-Joy, I think that this is one of the better roles that she's gotten in a while. I think she's a really talented actress who has kind of unfortunately been stuck with a lot of pretty boring roles in recent years. She's great in The Witch. She's great in Queen's Gambit. I know a lot of people liked her in Furiosa. I didn't particularly like that movie. But aside from that, not a lot exciting on the Anya Taylor-Joy front. But in this movie, she is like a real proper weirdo. In ways that are like not even initially apparent. There are layers to how weird Anya Taylor-Joy's character is in this movie, and I very much appreciate that. So yeah, I would imagine, considering all the stars involved, this is going to get a wide-ish release eventually. But I would recommend going and seeing it and deciding for yourself what you think. I'm still not totally sure what I think about it, but it is certainly an interesting movie. I'm
trying to see if it has distribution. It doesn't look like it, but I'm sure it gets picked up.
Yeah, surely. Anyways, the other movie I wanted to talk about was Hamnet, the new film from Chloe Zhao, who people maybe know from The Rider, Nomadland, which that won Best Picture, right?
Did it?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
It was.
Forgot that.
I think a lot of people memory hold it because wasn't it 2020 or something?
It was 2020. Yeah.
2020.
Because that was also, I think, a People's Choice TIFF movie. I remember watching it at the at-home TIFF.
It blows my mind.
Yeah. And I think that because of the success of that movie, she then got flagged to do Eternals for Marvel, which I did
Nobody
not
remembers
see,
that.
but I heard was like quite the train wreck. And she has thoroughly stepped out of the Marvel world with this movie. Hamnet is an adaptation of a novel that is itself kind of a fictionalization of the life of Shakespeare and his wife, Anne Hathaway, in particular focusing on the loss of their son, Hamnet, who died of plague when he was very young. And, a lot of Shakespeare scholars speculate that the play Hamlet is inspired by the death of Shakespeare's young son. It doesn't really seem to me like the play bears a lot of resemblance to anything that Shakespeare would have experienced in his life, but we also have so little actual documentation on like the personal details of Shakespeare's life that it's a little hard to say. But Hamlet's a complicated play with a lot going on in it. And I think that it's maybe a little bit reductive to say like it's all him mourning his child, which is kind of how this movie treats it. But this takes place almost entirely in Stratford-upon-Avon, the like small rural community where Shakespeare grew up and met Anne Hathaway. And it is pretty dingy, pretty dirty. You get the sense that people live like very rustic lives here, and they're presented with a pretty high degree of naturalism. This is not a movie with like big Hollywood moments in it, really. It is just kind of people living their lives, and you're seeing relationships play out and develop somewhat naturally. And so the arc of the movie is mostly Shakespeare meeting Anne Hathaway, falling in love, getting married, having children, moving away to pursue a life in the theater, and then losing a child. Him and Anne Hathaway kind of like grieving separately, living in different cities, and then culminates in a performance of Hamlet, which his wife goes and sees. I should also mention who's playing Shakespeare and Anne Hathaway here. Paul Mescal plays Shakespeare, and I think does a pretty good job, though I have questions about the script because Paul Mescal's Shakespeare, and this is maybe just kind of a reflection of the source material it's pulled from, but not a man who has a way with words, really. Like, he's a very soft-spoken, quiet guy who, like, when pressed to express his love to Anne Hathaway, like, really struggles to find the words for much of anything. And so it's, I'm sure that that's kind of an intentional tension that exists in the movie. This guy who, like, is just like so historically renowned for, having all these incredibly poetic ways of describing just about anything, just really doesn't do that in his own personal life. And maybe that's true. I can definitely, there's an extent to which I can relate to that. Like I feel like I'm so much better with words when I'm writing than when I am asked to speak to people, especially in social situations. But I did feel like I wanted more from the movie linguistically than I got. But the Anne Hathaway character is played by Jessie Buckley, who I think gives a really, really moving performance. I think that she's the one who is like acting her grief a little bit more overtly than you see from Paul Mescal. And really the culminating scene of the movie is like her just kind of watching Hamlet be acted out. And you kind of see her go through this roller coaster of emotions as she is at first kind of like resistant to the whole concept of the play, which she dismisses as like having nothing to do with her son. Why is this play named after my son? And then you kind of see her slowly get swept up in it and end up having like a very emotional experience with the play. And we also see Paul Mescal's Shakespeare acting in the play as the ghost, Hamlet Sr. And we know that Shakespeare did act in his own plays. There's not a lot of documentation on which parts that he played, but it's cool to think about Shakespeare playing the ghost in Hamlet. And so, yeah, it is a movie that is really trying to pull your heartstrings. It is trying to get you to cry. And when I walked out of the theater, it seemed like basically everybody in there was crying. It did not move me in that way. Maybe I was just like over intellectualizing it as a person who's taught a lot of Shakespeare in my day. But I did not find myself getting like swept up in it emotionally as it like so obviously wants me to be. And maybe that's a me problem, maybe that's a movie problem, but it definitely worked for the majority of people. It won the People's Choice Award at TIFF, which is often an indicator that a movie will be at least a front runner for Best Picture at the Oscars. So I think this is a movie that will get a wide release and will probably be a big topic of conversation later in the year.
Yeah, I was going to say Steven Spielberg is a producer on this, and it's being distributed by Amblin. So it looks like November 27th of this year is when it comes out.
Yeah,
that's my birthday. That's Thanksgiving. Okay.
Happy birthday to you!
Wow.
Thank you. I turned 30.
Nice.
Welcome to the club.
Outlived Hamnet.
Yeah.
Damn.
That's the club. Poor kid. Yeah.
I will also briefly mention that this movie has a score by Max Richter, the great neoclassical ambient composer. And that, I think, is maybe the best aspect of the movie for me. I think the music is really, really beautiful. So maybe another one that would be good to see on a big screen, kind of get swept up in the melodrama of it. I do wish that there was a little bit more to it. Plot-wise, like the movie feels a little timid about stepping outside of the like historically established narrative about what we know about Shakespeare, which again is very, very little. We know so little about this guy. And I kind of wish that it just took more creative liberties because it just doesn't feel like there's that much of a story to tell. Like I gave the really quick bullet points of like, here's all the things that happen. And like, it doles those out like very slowly and patiently. And I think that to an extent that's a positive thing because it does allow the emotions of the movie to really be dwelt in. But yeah, I was just kind of like hoping for something more. I'm not totally sure what that is, but again, worked for a lot of people. It's going to play wide, I'm sure. Go see it and make up your own mind.
All right, well, continuing on, I'm going to go over my three, and I'm going to start to kind of connect us, Andrew, with a movie that you and I both saw, which was It Was Just an Accident, which is the latest film from acclaimed Iranian director Jafar Panahi. Yeah, great guy. This is one that like it's another movie that it's like I think you can kind of get to a point to describe it, and then you got to cut yourself off because there's so much in like the second and third act of the movie that requires kind of going in cold. But I feel like the stuff that you can kind of get into that's not super spoilery is the movie starts, there's a husband and wife and a child. They're driving on like this rural road. They hit something and they end up they go a little bit farther and they realize that something's wrong with their car, and so they stop off at like a garage, but it's not like a full scale garage. And so the mechanic there is like, I can give you a quick fix, but you're going to need to go to some, another mechanic to finish the job out. And in this garage, there's another man who it kind of is insinuated that he owns the place or is like just somebody else who works there. But at the time when these people come in, he's on the phone, and he notices the husband who's wandering around the garage and like stops cold in his feet and like has this like very visceral reaction to this man, and ends up following them home and like clocking where he lives. And then the next day he follows the man to the garage where he's going to drop off his car and kidnaps him. And it's revealed after the kidnapping that the mechanic believes this guy is the person who years and years before was one of the chief torturers. The mechanic had been picked up by they keep kind of referring to the regime, I assume like the Iranian regime. Mm-hmm. And he had been picked up for radical activities in their opinion, and had been put in jail and tortured for many years. And this man who he has kidnapped was like the one who really, who was the one that really left a mark on him and a number of other people. But right before he's about to finish this job, he just kind of realizes, am I 100% sure that this guy is the guy who I think he is? Mm-hmm. And the rest of the movie is him going through various hurdles to find ways to verify whether this is the man who tortured me, who should possibly be put to death. And becomes this very much this morality play, which kind of seems like a very different direction. This is more of like a straight like thriller than different direction for Jafar Panahi. It's a straight thriller,
but not just a thriller either. It's like a comedy.
It's very funny.
It's kind of modulating a lot of tones.
Yeah, and. Yeah, it is. And it's one that you kind of forget this premise that I've laid out. You kind of forget about it to a degree through a lot of the second act, because he goes in all these different directions, and more people begin to like come on board. And it for a while it becomes this ensemble comedy of these mm-hmm. people trying to like come to this conclusion. I really enjoyed it. It's one that like, I think keeps you similar to what we were talking about with Surat, where it kind of has this baseline plot line and then goes in various directions. I think it keeps you incredibly engaged the entire time. I think it's one where I think you're kind of like, is there like a resolution? Is there any ambiguity? Like, is it, they come to a conclusion, and it's not, they do I think that you feel satisfied by where the movie ends. But I really enjoyed this. It's one that was also picked up by Neon and is getting a wider release. But Andrew, what did you think of this movie?
I thought it was great. I think it's definitely the most like conventionally like narratively satisfying movie I've seen from Jafar Panahi.
Yeah.
Like everything I've seen by him up to this point has had a very like cerebral or sort of like structural conceit to it that it wants you to think about very hard, right? Like, this is not a film is him in his apartment like describing a movie that he would love to make if he was able to make movies. Taxi is like entirely inside a taxi that Jafar Panahi is driving around as a way to kind of surreptitiously make movies. And like No Bears is kind of like this movie inside a movie where you see like a fictionalized version of Jafar Panahi like making a movie while also like dealing with this whole other side plot. And this is almost like a Hitchcockian sort of thing, like I've captured this guy and I'm going to murder him, but I need to go check on a bunch of other things first. And like, gonna go get my like gang of accomplices to this murder that he ends up gathering.
I need to get like second, third, fourth, and fifth sources for this story.
Absolutely. This reminds me of like me accusing students of using ChatGPT and like needing to like ask a bunch of other coworkers, like, does it look like ChatGPT to you? But It is still like a pretty heavy movie emotionally, even though it is like it almost plays out like a farce at times, because like it really explores this idea of like national cultural trauma of living in a state that just can kind of wantonly imprison and torture people under whatever pretense they want to claim, right? And like you get the sense from like all these people that the main character keeps picking up to like get second opinions about this guy, that like this is not an experience that like a small number of people have gone through, right? It feels as though you could just like grab anybody off the street and they could tell you their experiences with the Iranian police state. And it's kind of a movie about how that trauma informs your desire for revenge, and just like your general emotional state and feeling of safety and security in your life. But it also kind of, like you said, becomes this morality play. It's very interested in like the idea of justice and whether or not revenge is justice, if it like offers any sort of cathartic reward for the people getting revenge, or if it's just like ultimately kind of counterproductive and makes the people getting revenge just as bad as the people they're taking their revenge out on. Again, there's stuff in like the back third of this that I really want to talk about, but will not.
Yeah.
But I was really impressed with where this thing ends up landing, because it's kind of like rambly shambly, like wandering all over the place in the middle section of it, and I wasn't sure if it was gonna land in a place that felt, I don't know,
true
or like powerful. Like it almost felt like we were treating the subject matter almost too flippantly about halfway through the movie, but it does like take on this great sense of gravity at the end that I'm actually not I'm not super used to seeing from Jafar Panahi. Like usually it is just this like very like intellectual experience watching his movies, and you're kind of, I don't know, you're having this one kind of like art house cinema experience the entire time, whereas this is playing in a little bit more of a I don't know, an accessible mode.
It's not a Hollywood movie, but
No.
but you could kind of mistake it as one just because it is a very accessible movie. Like I think people, they don't have to be like hard, deep cinephiles to maybe find some enjoyment out of this.
I do think that it would actually be a really good place to start with Jafar Panahi if you've never seen one of his movies.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is a huge thumbs up for me. I really, really enjoyed this.
Yeah, I think it's coming out probably later this year, early next. Like I said, Neon's picked it up, so hopefully it gets a little bit wider release, and yeah, hopefully it's a nice entry point for a lot of people into Jafar Panahi as a filmmaker. Mm-hmm. One of the other movies I saw, I went to the world premiere of Wake Up Dead Man, a Knives Out mystery. I'm a big fan of this series. I rewatched the first one before going to the festival because I had not seen that in a while. I saw it when it came out at TIFF 2019, I forgot which year it was.
And did you see Glass Onion at TIFF as well?
And I saw Glass Onion at TIFF. So I'm 3 for 3 on seeing the Knives Out movies at TIFF, which has been fun.
As opposed to Netflix.
Yeah, and it's nice to see it in a theater with people. But Wake Up Dead Man, this one, it seems to veer a little bit more towards the mood of the first one movie. The trailers come out, so I think, and it kind of like tells you what happens with the murder. So I feel okay talking a little bit about that. But this time you're in this like upstate New York, this very like kind of gothic spooky autumnal kind of town. And there's this church that's led by Josh Brolin, who is just this very inflammatory, controversial, unwoke preacher who is kind of has like created this cult of personality around him, who follows his every word, and has like developed this very close niche group among the people who live in the town, including characters played by Jeremy Renner and Kerry Washington and Andrew Scott and Kaylee Spaney, and a new priest has joined the church, played by Josh O'Connor, who is he's kind of getting sit on his first assignment to join this church, and he's kind of warned that kind of good luck with this. Josh Brolin's character is not somebody who is looked fondly at by the church at the moment, and lo and behold, he gets murdered. But it's during a Good Friday service, and he goes in this side room, and the next thing he's laying on the floor dead with a knife in his back. And so, as it being a Knives Out movie, Benoit Blanc, the Daniel Craig detective, shows up in his best foghorn leghorn Southern accent, and
he makes a joke about how Good Friday, actually, this is a pretty bad one.
I don't think he does, actually. He missed opportunity. Yeah.
Does the body get resurrected 3 days later?
Oh, man.
I won't say anything.
Okay.
It's Ryan Johnson was there. He talked a little bit about this one was inspired more by like Edgar Allan Poe stories and things of that nature. So it kind of has, I wouldn't say a darker vibe. It does lean a little bit more into like a spooky horror element than the first one did or the second one did. And it really leans into kind of that, like it's a perfect movie. I think it comes out in theaters around Thanksgiving, and then is on Netflix in December. It's a good, I think.
It's getting a theatrical release.
It's getting a two.
Glass Onion did. It was just a very narrow window.
It's getting a 2-week run, so it'll be, and it's a good like late fall movie to watch. It's a very autumnal movie. Yeah, I don't know. At this point with the Knives Out movies, I think they all kind of exist to a degree on the same plane to me. Like I find them very entertaining. Ryan Johnson's always a director who can really piece together something that's enjoyable. It's funny. It's scary. The twists and turns, I think, validate each other. It doesn't feel like he's kind of like winging it and trying to come up with something. It continues to be like this. He kind of channels how he's processing the current state of America through it. Mm-hmm. But I feel like he does it in a way that that doesn't feel too forced. But yeah, I don't know. If you've liked the Knives Out movie, I think you'll enjoy this. I don't think it's necessarily gonna. If you hated them both, this is going to be the one to change your mind. I think it's a franchise at this point that kind of it works in the mode that it's been working in. So, yeah, Wake Up Dead Man. Good to see Josh O'Connor in like a much more, kind of a blockbuster movie, like a little bit more blockbuster role after appearing in Challengers and other movies last year. Mm-hmm. And then the last movie I wanted to talk about was the last movie I saw at TIFF, and that is the latest from the ever prodigious Steven Soderbergh. And it is The Christophers. I'm happy to report I've liked the movies that they've made together, but I'm happy to report he's taken a break from working with David Koepp. He is not the screenwriter on this movie. The Christophers follows a character played by Ian McKellen, who, I don't know, this might be the best Ian McKellen role in a long time. I saw some people referring to it as the best Ian McKellen role since Gandalf, which I'm sure he's done stuff in between that are good, but
I don't remember.
I don't know, but like he's extremely good in this movie. He's fantastic. Like like he honestly, I don't know when this comes out. He should get Oscar consideration. He's very good in this movie. But he's playing this very enigmatic artist who kind of had a run in like the 60s and 70s and 80s. And his most famous pieces were these series called the Christophers, and they were a series of drawings and paintings that he made about this young man named Christopher, who he was intimate or just very like close with. And the first two series are very heralded. That really was what got his name out there. And then he had alluded to making a third series of Christopher paintings, but nobody's ever seen them. And then he kind of really fell into obscurity. He joined like this, the best way I can describe it is it's like this British reality show that's like American Idol, but for paintings. And becomes like the Simon Cowell for that, where he just spends his time like shitting on art that people have made. And now it's just,
why does such a thing not exist in real life?
I know it was kind of a fun show when they showed clips from it. But now he's kind of existed in obscurity. He's like, the first time you meet him, he's doing these cameos and he's talking about how much money he can make by doing these cameos. But the real plot of the movie is Michaela Cole plays an art restorer, and she's hired by the two children of the Ian McKellen character, who's played by the woman who was in the TV show Baby Reindeer, and James Corden, which James Corden I was a little concerned about, and then he plays like a shithead's son, and I'm like, they cast James Corden correctly in this movie. They did a good job. And those the kids approach Michaela Cole's character because they want her to become his assistant so that she can secretly restore the final Christopher's series, so that when he dies, they can sell it as like this, this lost series by this famed artist. And so she becomes the assistant in this, and it's a very talky movie. It's a lot of that. You spend a lot of time in like his London penthouse, not penthouse, but like London row house, really like very, antique and natural row house that he lives in. And it's a lot of Michaela Cole's character and Ian McKellen's character kind of going back and forth as these two art figures, as the children kind of like pop in and out. Soderbergh really kind of steps back in this one. He's still directing the hell out of it, and the two performances by Ian McKellen and Michaela Cole are great. But it really is very much like a screenwriting movie. It's really about this kind of repartee between the two characters, and I really enjoyed it. I don't really know what else to kind of say about it. I think Ian McKellen's character is this, he's past his time. He kind of resents it. He's very much, he very much kind of ruminates on how, the art has escaped him, and people don't understand good art anymore. And I don't know if you're a fan of him, if you're kind of like me and a Soderbergh fan, it's very much a Soderbergh movie. I feel like for completists, like, I don't think this is going to be one where you're like, I'm interested in this guy, I'm going to start with the Christophers. It reminds me a little bit of the movie he did a couple years back with Meryl Streep and Candice Bergen,
The Laundromat.
Oh, the one on the cruise where they were
the cruise. Yeah. It reminds me a lot of that. Like, it's just it's very laid back and like kind of letting these like veteran actors really like play.
It's funny you mentioned that, because I looked up the screenwriter of this movie, and he did No Sudden Move with Soderbergh, which I believe was around the same period as that Meryl Streep one. He also wrote Men in Black and Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. So
incredible.
I looked up what Ian McKellen has been in since Gandalf, and we're really overlooking Cats.
Oh my God! How did
he gives the best performance in Cats. At one point, he just goes meow, and it's
oh God! How could I forget?
Yeah, I don't know when this movie is gonna. I don't know if it has a distributor. I don't know when it comes out, but I think it's well worth the time. Especially Ian McKellen is great in it. And yeah, I enjoyed it. Michael, I'm going to toss it over to you to close us out.
Yeah, well, I'm going to not quite toss it over, or not quite catch it. We're going to share the ball for a second because we're talking about Sentimental Value. Zach, you and I both saw this movie, which is the most recent movie from the director. Now, I had been pronouncing his name as Joaquin Trier for my entire time that I've been aware of this guy. No, so I went to this is my first public screening that I went to, in which he was there and was introduced as Joachim because it is because he is Scandinavian.
Okay.
So this is the Norwegian director behind, probably the most famously because it's most recent, is The Worst Person in the World, but also like Louder Than Bombs or Oslo, August 31st.
Elma.
Yes, I really like this director, Ole Joachim. And this movie is about, it kind of sounds meta, but it doesn't really play that way. It is about a filmmaker. He's an aging filmmaker who has basically become estranged from his daughters because he has basically just been an inconsistent and inconsiderate presence in their lives. But he has returned to their lives because he's written a movie that he wants one of his daughters to star in. One of his acclaimed movies from way back in the day starred one of the sisters as a young girl. He kind of wants to rekindle his relationship with his daughters by having her star in a movie. The daughter says no because she doesn't trust her dad. And so he instead seeks younger talent and gets hooked up with a character played by Elle Fanning, who is this kind of ingenue starlet who has enough clout to get him funding because as an aging auteur who's European auteur whose best days are behind him, he's having trouble securing funding. And so while this is happening, the mother, his former wife and the mother of his two daughters has recently died. And they have to figure out what to do with the family home. The movie opens, in fact, or I think it opens, with a long narration of the history of this home, which has, been in the family, has had all sorts of major life occurrences happen, but now is in sort of a limbo because when the parents divorced, the mom, the wife, the woman got to keep the house, but they never actually finished the paperwork for transferring the deed over to her. And so it remained the deed remained with the father, the filmmaker. And so now he's coming back and wants to film in the house while basically they're trying to clean up the house because it's probably going to be sold. It's a little bit unclear what's going to happen to the house. So it's really a movie not exactly about filmmaking, but more about the ways that these kind of generational and familial rifts intersect with the film that is being made. And a lot of it is the kind of shifting dynamics of the father and daughters together. And also kind of a rumination on age as this aging filmmaker sees his peers, start dying. Obviously his ex-wife has just died. He's kind of seeing the world shift around him in a way that makes him feel maybe incompatible with how the world is becoming, at least incompatible with the kind of films he wants to make since he's having trouble securing the funding for them. I liked it. Zach, what did you think about this?
I really enjoyed it as well. I liked Worst Person in the World, but I felt like this was there was much more of like a maturity in this one. I don't mean that to be a downplay to the other movie, but I felt like there's more completeness to the various characters' journeys in this than you get with Worst Person in the World. I also loved like the way they incorporated the history of the house. That was wonderful. I'm always fascinated by movies that like kind of play with the concept of like time reverberating through a space. And this one, it doesn't do anything necessarily like supernatural with it, but like I think there's a lot of play between like the history of the home and the history in like what it's seen, including the most recent history with like the daughters and their father and their life with their mother, and like somewhat bringing a finality to that through the course of the movie.
And the way that it works, where you get these like sequences of narrative, like narration that like happen, and you get like this old footage and stuff. It does kind of remind me a little bit of his other movie, Louder Than Bombs, which indulges in some of that sort of thing as well. But also, if you've ever seen 20th Century Women, that was another thing that I got from this, in the sense of like how that movie at certain times like just refracts time through the, and all of a sudden you're like speeding through time, whereas otherwise, after scenes of relative naturalistic time spent with these characters.
And I don't know how to pronounce her name, the older sister in the movie, Renee Renstadt or something maybe. Like she's wonderful. She's really good in Worst Person in the World. She's exceptional in this as well. I really like what her character, like the journey she takes with her character in this one compared to Worst Person in the World. It's much more like complex and interesting, and I think that she really plays it well. But yeah, I really enjoyed this. This is one that's Neon is distributing as well, and I think is going to kind of set up as like a possible Oscar play.
I think it's already been announced as like Norway's submission to the Academy Awards.
Yeah, and a really like a actor, Stellan Skarsgård. I don't know if you mentioned plays.
Oh, I forget. Yeah, I forgot to mention that he plays
the dad, the director. And like he's popped up in so much stuff lately, and it's been, he's always a nice presence, but he's like given a lot more to chew on in this movie than he's been given in recent time. And I really liked it. It was good to see him acting.
Yeah, it's truly like, a complex character in the sense of it's hard to know how to feel about him because, one, we never see him act in the most hurtful ways that he has in the past. Like a lot of what we're hearing is watching his daughters react to him with the weight of their history of interactions. And we are not exactly privy to those. But his daughters have been very hurt by him in the past. But also, he's presented as a sympathetic character in the sense of we're tracking like his kind of growing obsolescence and his growing like feeling of like his desire to still make art, but his struggle to do so. I don't know. It's a really there's a lot of tension in the performance that I think is really, really wonderful.
The one thing that has really nothing to do with anything that I want to add is there's an incredibly funny sequence where he's gotten funding for this movie by Netflix, and he like does a press conference with him and Elle Fanning's character to like talk about this movie that they're going to be making, and him, this European auteur who hasn't made a film in 15 years processing Netflix's release style and everything it's like a 10-minute sequence that's incredibly funny.
Yeah, is that the same or is it a different sequence where he like chews out that interviewer who?
It's the same sequence.
It's the same. Okay, yeah, yeah. Because like a thread in the movie that is not the main thread, but is an interesting thread is Elle Fanning's character, who, is kind of on the other side of what Stellan Skarsgård's character is dealing with, in the sense of he has all this gravitas because of his past, but can get no institutional like traction because of what the industry is right now. Whereas she has all the industry traction in the world. Like she can help produce this movie, her name attached to it, like, gets all this stuff, but she is grasping for like gravitas. Like she's not taken seriously because of the roles she's done in the past. And like I think that's a really interesting role. I think Elle Fanning obviously has proved herself to be a good actress, but she's really good in this movie as the character that she's playing. And the connection between her and the Stellan Skarsgård character is like really good and also complex, in a lot of ways. that I like.
I really like this. It was one of my favorites at the festival.
Yeah, really good. And especially if you've liked his other movies, like it's kind of playing to that as well. For sure. I'll go kind of quickly through the other two movies that I've seen, see if we can finish this out in under 2 hours. But I saw the new Park Chan-wook movie, No Other Choice. We mentioned that earlier. And I can go kind of quick on this one because it is yet another movie where it's probably fun not to spoil everything about it. But the kind of log line is that you have this guy who is working at a paper company, not like The Office, but like they pulp paper and stuff. And so he works in kind of like this factory setting. And the movie opens where it's like this almost like cartoonish like figure of like middle class contentment. You know, he's got a wife, a family, a house, and a job he's pleased with. He won the 2019 Pulp Man of the Year. They make a big deal out of that. And he's basically like, I got it all. How could my life get any better? And then he's laid off. And that's the first time you hear the title dropped in the movie is the company being like, we had no other choice. We have to, downsize, et cetera, et cetera. And so this like sends him into a tailspin where he joins this recovery group for people who are existentially unable to deal with the fact they've lost their jobs. And it's like a support group for like, you're going to get back on your feet. And they create these mantras of like, we're going to get a job in 3 months. And then he goes to this group and then it like jumps ahead 12 months and he still doesn't have the job he wants. He's like doing this kind of, work that he finds menial and he wants to get back into the paper industry. And so he applies for a job and the interview kind of goes poorly and he realizes he may not get the job. And so kind of, he feels that again, like in the title of the movie, he has no other choice but to make sure that there's no competition for this job. And so he starts looking up like the people who also applied for this job. And then from there, hijinks ensue. This is a movie that I think in some ways honestly feels not like what I'm used to Park Chan-wook movies being like. It's certainly not like The Handmaiden, which is very stately in a lot of ways. And it's not even like Old Boy or those sorts of older movies that he used to do where there's like almost this like cartoonish violence in the movie. Like this movie is like this movie has pratfalls. Like this movie has like there's a consistent undercurrent of like this kind of really dark comedy as this man like just kind of spirals out in his life, because of the ravages of like neoliberalism at play in his, in his career. And like, honestly, and I mean, I don't want to put too fine a point on this because there's, I don't want it to sound like there's only two like South Korean directors that people know about, but like it does in some ways feel like a Bong Joon-ho movie, like in the spirit of Parasite or that sort of thing, where you watch people react in response to these economic conditions that are so clearly unfair and unjust, and that people kind of have to deal with. And also kind of like a Bong Joon-ho movie, it has this complicated tone where it will veer wildly from slapstick to, stuff that's maybe a bit more like overtly dramatic. But a lot of it is really funny. When he first loses his job, they're kind of running through the things that they're going to have to do to save money. And, it's all kind of fairly serious stuff. And then at the end, he mentions that they'll have to cancel Netflix and the family is horrified that they're going to have to cancel Netflix and like stuff like that. Anyway, I thought this was really fun and funny. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it quite a bit. And the places it goes are I thought pretty surprising. I didn't really know a lot about this movie going in, except that it was the new Park Chan-wook movie. And I enjoyed just watching this movie unspool as it went on. So that was that. And then the last movie I'll talk about is also another movie by kind of an established auteur. I kind of feel like the three that I'm talking about are all like, hey, remember these respected art house filmmakers? They've got a new one. So this is the new Christian Petzold movie called Miriors No. 3. Mirror number 3 is like,
mirror.
Yeah, I know that. Anyway, the title comes from a Ravel piece. There's a pianist in the movie. I think that's the connection. I'm sure there's a more thematic connection with the piece had I known more about the music itself. But so Christian Petzold, you may know from movies like Transit or Phoenix, or A Fire, which was I thought it was last year, but I guess it was 2 years ago that it came out. Like a lot of Petzold movies, there's kind of like a specific, like almost high concept thing going on here that in some ways like recalls, maybe like a Hollywood screenwriter turn. So in this movie, you have Paula Beer, who's been in his last few movies, has kind of like, I guess, replaced Nina Haas as like the muse kind of, starlet or whatever. But she is in a relationship with this guy that she doesn't seem thrilled with. And at the beginning of the movie, they are in a car wreck because she decides she doesn't want to go on this outing that they had originally agreed to go on, so they have to turn around and go back. And as they're going back, they're in a car wreck where the dude is killed, and she is merely just injured, not very badly, but enough that she has to take it easy for a few days. And they've crashed in front of this woman's house, and Paula Beer's character just kind of like spontaneously tells the paramedics, what if I just stayed at this woman's house instead of going to the hospital? And the woman is like, I guess, sure. And so they start she starts staying at this woman's house, and there's this air of mystery because there's clearly something going on with this woman, like the fact that she would say yes to this request. Paula Beer's character herself just seems to be kind of spiraling. Like she is a student at a university. She's studying piano. But like, she's not happy with her life. So like, there's a sort of sense of she's just kind of desperate and like doesn't want to go back to the life she's discontent with. But the woman, it's unclear what's going on with her. She seems to live by herself, although later in the movie we find out that she has a husband, perhaps ex-husband, it's a little unclear to me, and a son who work at like a mechanic shop down the road. And basically the four of them start increasingly hanging out. So Paula Beer, the woman, and then the two men associated with them. And it seems as if there was once another member of the family. And what has happened with her is we don't know yet. Why is this woman so welcoming of Paula Beer's character? And that all sounds really sinister. And there is an element of like, maybe sinisterness, but there's also like a really sweet element to the story as well. It is ultimately like a movie about how people deal with loss and how people find connection with each other in a way that, like, for as like kind of unsettling as some of the early goings are, it doesn't quite end in the place where you might think. Like there's Vertigo sort of stuff going on here, where like characters are trying to replace other characters, with people without their consent and stuff like that. But like unlike Vertigo, which ends with extreme disquiet, this kind of weirdly finds like a resolution that feels very like affectionate almost for all of the characters, rather than treating these characters as like kind of bizarre, like objects of psychosis or something. I really liked it. It's not as like, it's not going to replace Transit or like Phoenix as like the kind of go-to like top shelf Petzold movies. But I think that this is Petzold, like, giving a very good understated movie. I enjoyed it a lot. So
that sounds like that description just sounds like a Christian Petzold movie.
I mean, it is. I mean, like, yeah, like you know what you're into with a Petzold movie. It's not going to like radically reshape your idea of what a Petzold movie is, but it delivers fun. It's absolutely.
They're fun.
They're fun.
What people say about Christian Petzold.
He's a fun guy. I'd get a beer with the guy.
Like, those are both great movies.
All right. Well, I'm gonna try to end it before we hit 2 hours.
And
but,
just under the wire too.
Just under the wire. Like I said, we'll have reviews of this coming out later this year that you can find on the website. Maybe I can't promise at any time or date when we'll have that. And be watching, if you've listened this long, be watching the Cemetery feed. We'll have a new series coming out soon. So until then, thanks for listening, and we will see you at some undetermined time in the future.
Well, next month.
Next month.
Yeah.
Undetermined.